So I just want to kind of first introduce myself. My name is Misty. This is my YouTube, and this is Eddie Jackson with Draper and Kramer. Eddie is a real estate mortgage lender in the Northern Virginia DMV area.
I guess we're going to talk some veteran VA loan, talk about VA loans, and talk about how we're going to help veterans.
Absolutely, because there's a lot of veterans in this area, and a lot of them have a lot of questions. There are some that have not used their certificate of eligibility. A lot of them do not realize last year in January that the loan limits have changed. A lot of them have questioned about, their upfront VA fee, if I'm saying that correctly, is waived at a certain disability level, and the percentages. And you can kind of go and explain that a little bit more. But just kind of talk about what on the VA side, as far as the residential mortgage lending, how do you help veterans in your space?
Because if anybody's using me and not you, we have a chat.
Right.
No, but seriously, yeah, I think the most important thing for veterans is that they realize that, most of you have 100% financing on your first purchase, right? So when you buy a home, you've got to pay for the home, pay for the purchase price between loan amount and money out of pocket. And that down payment, that difference between your loan amount and the money out of pocket, is why a lot of people rent. That's a huge benefit for you if you've served the country. And it's really important that you take advantage of it, not just because it exists, but because that step to purchase a home is a big step in wealth building and creating a secure environment and preparing yourself for retirement. So 100% financing is the reason. So the only limitation on your ability to borrow is your income. To your point, you asked about changes in loan limits. Recently, this past year, VA made a decision to remove loan limits. So whether you're buying your first home and it's $200,000, or you're doing really well financially and you're buying a $2 million home,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to put a down payment. You get a great rate, right?
Right. A lot of people, a lot of veterans kind of forget that, especially when they're moving from one house to another. A lot of them are coming up with a lot of equity and not realizing that with the interest rates as they are right now, it may make more sense just to continue that 100% financing on their next product.
Yeah, I agree. You always have to look at the best use of your money. So when you're making a decision about making a down payment, there are a couple things that come into play. Of course, that down payment is going to lower your monthly payment to a degree, and feeling comfortable with your monthly bills is something to consider. But if you look at just the best use of that cash resource, you have to look at, okay, I could either use this to avoid 2.5% interest or 2.25% interest, and that's what making a down payment means. It means if I pay this extra $20,000, I don't have to pay 2.25% interest on that $20,000. If you compare that with other investment opportunities you might have and your projected rate of return, say you could assume that you could make 7% on your money. Now, if you just choose, do I want to use $20,000 to avoid 2.25% interest, or do I use that $20,000 to make 7%? The difference between those two things is why, most people are going to find themselves investing the money. But yeah, the important thing is that people are having that conversation. If you have the conversation, you surround yourself with experts like me, yourself, hopefully a financial advisor. You hope that each person makes the best situation for themselves to prepare themselves to live a long, happy, financially secure life.
Absolutely. So what about those veterans that I come across this sometimes in real estate where you have a veteran and then their significant other isn't a veteran, but they're wanting to purchase a house together. Talk about like what happens in those situations and the qualification process with that.
Yeah, it's um, you can use the income for anyone who's on the application to qualify for the loan. Now, as long as one of the applicants has VA eligibility, you're fine. Um, your what's important to know about that? The
So
lowest.
do they have to be married?
Oh, they
In-
do. Right. Good point. Right. So, the co-borrower has to be your spouse.
okay.
So they usually are. In all these years, I haven't had a person who's a veteran have a attempt to have a co-applicant as a spouse, but maybe it's because you can't do it. So, yeah, if you want to use your fiance's income, you may have to get married before we go into contract. No pressure.
No pressure, no pressure at all. But sometimes, you know, when people are trying to make those financial decisions, and yes, you know, a lot of times for the bigger house, I run into that where they want the bigger house, but it's based off of both of their incomes. But the situation is where they just can't use the VA loan because they're not married.
Yeah, nothing lasts forever, but I think the thought is that if you're married, the likelihood that you're going to have an amicable relationship for an extended period of time, chances are higher, right?
Mhm.
So, uh, the other component is that 100% financing is coveted, right? I think requiring that you're married makes it less likely that you have people trying to take advantage of
Right.
veterans for their benefit. So, this for the best, and in those one-off cases to where you may want to buy a home and have your friend be a co-borrower, or your girlfriend or boyfriend, whatever the case may be,
Right.
you may have to wait to buy a dream home until things move on to the next step. But that doesn't mean you can't buy that first home. That's
Mhm.
within your means. You see it a lot. You see someone who used their VA loan to buy their first home. Maybe it's for 350,000. 5 years down the line, they want to buy their dream home. They got married. They had
Mhm.
children, and usually what we do is just refinance that first loan with a conventional loan, right? So that we free up your VA eligibility, and you go buy the bigger, better home. So
Right.
sometimes there's steps. Go
Right.
ahead.
So you made a very, very good point. So I know a lot of questions come up. And can I use my VA loan? Can I use my VA certificate of eligibility to purchase another VA property? And so I know you just spoke about, okay, there's ways around it. And what if they're unable to qualify for both of those payments? Really kind of talk about, okay, the difference in it.
So we're talking about how to qualify for that next property
Yeah, so
if
a
you
lot of
use your first.
yeah, a lot of veterans don't realize that it has to be within so much distance. So you can have two VAs at the same time, correct?
You can, but um, normally you're going to have to put a down payment on the second one if you maintain them both.
Okay.
You don't normally. I haven't seen a person get 100% financing on two properties that were maintained as VA. VA will finance a primary home and a second home. All right. So you could, if you were stationed here in Virginia, and you bought a home and they moved you to Texas, you wouldn't necessarily have to refinance or sell that home to get your VA eligibility, but you may find you have to put 7% down or 8% down, some odd number when you buy that next property. So um, you know, I, it's as long as your lender is an expert, then you just talk about your specific situation, and your options will be on the table. But it's important to know that you can have more than one VA loan at a time, and how we work with the rules that are given to us really depends upon your specific circumstances and what you're looking to do. So
Mhm.
sometimes, you know, 100% financing is important on that next property, or
Right.
that next property you're buying. If you're not putting 20% down, it'd be nice to avoid PMI. So there are reasons that a person would want to use that second VA. Um, and sometimes it means refinancing the first, sometimes it doesn't, just depending on your financial situation.
Right.